I want you to imagine a moment of just intense global synchronization, like a moment where the whole world is on the exact same wavelength.
Right, like a massive shared experience.
Exactly. Picture a New Year's Eve countdown. We've all been there, right at that precipice where literally billions of people are holding their breath, just staring at the clock, waiting for midnight.
Yeah, the tension is palpable.
It really is. Or, on the darker side of the human experience, think about a breaking news tragedy.
Oh, sure.
A moment of profound global shock where everyone is just glued to their screens feeling the exact same wave of grief or, disbelief at the exact same time.
Right, when the whole world just seems to stop.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what if that collective emotion, the sheer weight of billions of minds, focused intensely on a single event? What if it didn't just stay inside our heads?
Which is a wild premise to begin with.
It totally is. But what if it actually leaked out into the physical world? And what if it altered the behavior of machines running all across the globe?
It is a staggering thought, honestly. The idea that human consciousness could act almost like a gravitational field,
Right.
leaving a measurable physical fingerprint on hardware that is designed literally from the circuit board up to be completely immune to any outside influence.
It sounds like pure science fiction. If you read that in a sci-fi novel, you'd be like, oh, sure, I buy this as a fun premise.
Yeah, it's a great hook for a movie.
Exactly. But for decades, a massive international project has actually been operating under the assumption that this is a scientific reality, and they have been trying to capture the data to prove it.
Which brings us to the actual evidence.
Yes, and for this deep dive, we have a really fascinating stack of sources to guide us through this mystery.
We really do. It's quite a mix of materials.
It is. We are looking at historical interviews from YouTube featuring Roger Nelson. He's the founder of the Princeton Global Consciousness Project.
Often referred to as the GCP.
Right, the GCP. We are also diving into some incredibly dense, brand new raw data files. Like specifically, we have a massive data set called gcp.txt.
And that file is huge.
Oh, it's massive. It spans over 1 million seconds of continuous network readings from March 2026.
There's an ocean of numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And serving as the real centerpiece of our analysis today, we have a rigorous statistical audit from August 2026 that completely, reevaluates the project's network coherence data.
And that audit is really where the abstract philosophy hits a brick wall of mathematics.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it strips away all the mystique, the romance of the, global mind, and it applies cold, hard statistical standards to these seemingly magical spikes in the data.
Right. It takes the magic out of it. Or tries to, at least.
Yeah. And the way it deconstructs those spikes, well, it teaches us something really profound about how we interpret information in general.
That is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are going to unpack the science, the history, and the incredibly complex math behind this global consciousness experiment.
It's going to be a lot to unpack, but it's so worth it.
I agree. We'll look at the audacious early claims of the project, the hardware evolution into what they now call GCP 2.0, and then we're going to put a magnifying glass on one specific incident.
Right, the March 1st anomaly.
Yes, the March 1st, 2026 anomaly. We want to see what actually happens when you subject a supposed, quote-unquote, mindquape to the most rigorous mathematical scrutiny possible.
It's a perfect test case.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where did this wildly ambitious idea even come from? Because, this didn't just start in somebody's garage, right?
No, not at all. To really understand what we're looking at in that 2026 audit, we have to rewind way back to the late 1970s.
The 70s? Okay, wow.
Yeah, we are talking about the PEAR lab at Princeton University. That's PEAR, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab.
That is a very serious-sounding name.
It really is, and it's important to note the pedigree here. It was founded by Dr. Robert John. He was an aerospace engineer who literally used to work with NASA.
Wait, really? A NASA engineer?
Yes, and he was the dean of engineering at Princeton.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is not a joke.
Exactly. This wasn't some, fringe mysticism group burning incense in a basement. This was a team of serious scientists, physicists, and engineers. And they wanted to test an ancient philosophical question using modern technology.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What was the question?
They asked, could human intention, could thought itself, actually interact with the physical system.
And to do this, they didn't rely on, like, subjective human experiences or Ouija boards or anything.
No, of course not.
They built machines to be the impartial judges, right?
Yeah, they build random number generators, or RNGs.
Yeah.
And the architecture of these machines is absolutely crucial to understand. It's the foundation of literally everything that follows in our sources.
So how do they work? Because I assume they aren't just software programs generating pseudo-random numbers based on some algorithm.
Right.
Like what your computer uses to shuffle a Spotify playlist.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Software randomness isn't truly random, but these are hardware devices rooted in the unpredictable nature of quantum mechanics.
Okay, quantum mechanics. That sounds intense.
It is. They use something called reverse-biased Zener diodes.
Okay, let me see if I can translate that for you listening, because I definitely had to look this up when I was prepping.
Please do.
So a Zener diode is essentially a one-way gate for electricity on a circuit board. Normally, current just flows through it in one direction.
Right, like water through a pipe.
Yeah,
Uh,
but if you push enough voltage against that gate in the opposite direction, which is what they call reverse biasing, electrons shouldn't be able to get through. It's a wall.
According to classical physics, yes, it's a solid wall.
Right. But because of quantum mechanics, occasionally an electron will just kind of tunnel through that solid barrier.
Yeah, that phenomenon is known as quantum tunneling.
Okay, so it's like if you threw a tennis ball at a brick wall 1,000,000 times, and one time the ball just spontaneously passed through the solid brick and came out the other side.
Exactly. It completely defies classical physics.
And the timing of when an electron will tunnel through that barrier is theoretically fundamentally unpredictable.
Right, you can't time it.
It is microscopic, Plinko, but at a subatomic level.
That is a phenomenal way to picture it, honestly. The RNG device measures this quantum noise, the unpredictable timing of these tunneling electrons, and it turns it into a stream of zeros and ones.
Just binary data.
Right. It is pure chance. Absolute randomness. The machine has no memory, it doesn't know what happened a second ago, and it has absolutely no predictive capability for a second from now.
So it's completely isolated in the present moment.
Exactly. And the PEAR labs started their experiments by having individuals sit near these machines.
Just sit there.
Just sit there. And the instructions were really simple. Try to mentally will the machine to produce more ones than zeros. Or, more zeros than ones.
That is wild, just thinking at a metal box.
Yeah. And according to their early and obviously very controversial data, when people focused their minds, the statistical output of the numbers actually shifted.
Really?
Subtly, yeah. But they claimed it was a statistically undeniable deviation from pure chance.
Which naturally leads to the massive leap in logic that birthed the Global Consciousness Project in 1998, right?
That's exactly when it started.
The thinking goes, if one person staring intensely at a metal box in a basement in Princeton can cause a tiny, measurable ripple in quantum data, what happens if millions of people are feeling the exact same intense emotion at the exact same time?
Right. Could you measure a global ripple?
Yeah, and that question was the catalyst for the entire GCP network.
Exactly. Roger Nelson and his team placed dozens of these quantum RNGs in host sites all over the world.
Like everywhere.
Everywhere. They were in people's homes, they were in universities and offices, across every continent except Antarctica, I think.
Wow.
And these machines just ran day and night, constantly sending their streams of random zeros and ones back to a central server at Princeton over the early internet.
So they were essentially just listening to the static of the universe, waiting for a pattern, like an ordering of that static, to emerge during major world events.
That was the goal. And over the years, they made some colossal headline-grabbing claims.
Oh, I'm sure.
Our sources point out that the first major correlation they presented to the public was in August 1997.
Okay, 1997. Let me think. Oh, that was during the tragic death of Princess Diana.
Yes. As billions of people were glued to their televisions in shock and, this profound collective grief, the GCP researchers looked at their global network and claimed the machines stopped producing pure randomness.
Wow, so the data suddenly became ordered.
That's what they said. They observed a significant deviation in the variance of the numbers during the hours surrounding her funeral.
That gives me chills, honestly.
It is eerie. But the most famous and certainly the most intensely debated claim they ever made was surrounding the events of September 11, 2001.
The 9/11 data, I remember reading about this years ago. The claim was that this global network of random number generators effectively just glitched.
Glitched in a big way.
It deviated wildly from chance expectations for several hours around the attacks. And some researchers looking at that data calculated the odds of that specific pattern happening by pure chance were astronomically low.
Extremely low.
Something like less than 1 in a million, right?
Yeah.
Roger Nelson actually went on record calling it a global mindquake.
It's a very compelling narrative, but what really caught the public's imagination, though, was the claim of precursor changes.
Wait, precursors, what do you mean?
The researchers suggested that the data actually started shifting, becoming non-random hours before the planes even hit the towers.
A premonition in the machines.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it's a terrifying and awe-inspiring concept to just wrap your head around. The idea that collective human intuition felt the shockwave before the event even happened in real time.
It really challenges our understanding of time and consciousness.
And Nelson didn't just stop at a few isolated tragedies either. Over the lifespan of the original project, he claimed a level of statistical significance that is, frankly, unheard of in normal science.
Yeah, he was very confident.
Our sources say he stated that over 17 years, conducting 500 formal tests on various global events, they found a 7 sigma effect.
Let's pause on that term for a second, because a 7 sigma effect in statistics is almost mythical.
Right, it's huge.
To give you an idea, in particle physics, a 5 sigma effect is the gold standard required to announce the discovery of a new particle, like the Higgs boson.
Okay, so 5 sigma proves a fundamental building block of the universe.
Exactly. It means the deviation is 5 standard deviations away from the expected mean. So Nelson claiming a 7 sigma effect, that yielded calculated odds of 3 trillion to 1 against these results being a purely accidental artifact of the data.
3 trillion to 1, that is insane.
It is. His argument was that human consciousness was actively reducing the entropy, the randomness, and chaos of these quantum machines. He hypothesized that collective emotion acts as a neg-entropy force.
Neg-entropy, like negative entropy.
Right. Structuring the chaos into order.
Okay, but this brings us to the evolution of the project, which is critical for our analysis today. Because the original network, the one that ran for decades and produced those claims, it experienced a catastrophic hardware failure in April 2026.
Yeah, the main server basically just died, which effectively ended that first iteration.
But the team wasn't done. They were already building the network of the future. They called it GCP 2.0, and the technology got a massive, much-needed upgrade.
A very significant upgrade. See, the original project took the raw data from the machines and summed it up into 200-bit trials per second.
Which sounds like a lot, but is actually pretty low resolution, right?
Exactly. It was a relatively low resolution. GTP 2.0, working in partnership with an organization called HeartMath, who helped host the devices using citizen scientists all over the world, they decided to look much, much deeper.
So they increased the resolution.
Yeah, they moved to measuring the raw diode noise at a higher resolution of 1 Hertz. And instead of relying on just one quantum diode, each node in the new network uses multiple diodes running in parallel.
Oh, so they are constantly cross-checking each other.
Exactly. And they also added a mathematical scrubbing process called XOR whitening stages.
XR whitening. I want to spend a second on this because it addresses a massive point of skepticism that I think anyone listening would naturally have.
Yes, it's a crucial hardware upgrade.
So what is it?
XOR whitening is a mathematical logic stage implemented right at the hardware level, and it's designed to absolutely obliterate any physical bias in the machine.
Okay, bias like what?
Like if the temperature in the room changes.
Okay.
Or if the local power grid fluctuates and delivers slightly more voltage to the box. Or even if the physical components simply degrade over time.
Right.
Those environmental factors could theoretically bias the machine to spit out more ones than zeros.
Which would look like a statistical anomaly to a researcher, but it's really just a hot room.
Exactly. Or a bad power supply. So how does XOR whitening fix that?
Yeah, how does it?
Think of the XOR operation as a strict mathematical mixer. It takes the raw, potentially biased beta stream from the diode and blends it with a completely independent, perfectly balanced, alternating stream of bits.
What does that mean, an alternating stream?
Literally just a repeating 1 0 1 0 1 0.
Oh, okay.
And the rules of the XOR logic gate guarantee that the output will be perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
50% ones and 50% zeros over time. It completely erases any long-term physical bias from the environment.
But it keeps the randomness.
Yes, it preserves the short-term quantum unpredictability. It mathematically guarantees that any physical environmental bias is just scrubbed out of the data.
Okay, I have to jump in here with some serious pushback.
Go for it.
Let's look at this setup. We have a network of giant global coin-flipping machines They are shielded from radio frequencies. They are physically insulated from thermal changes.
Right.
They have mathematical XOR whitening to strip away power grid fluctuations. They are locked down tighter than a nuclear submarine.
They're very secure boxes, yes.
So, how exactly is a feeling of grief or joy supposed to reach inside that box?
It's a fair question.
What is the physical mechanism here? Are we saying sadness emits a magnetic field that can penetrate the shielding?
That is the most common critique, and it's a vital one. But what's really fascinating is that the project's founders explicitly state they are not looking for a physical force.
Wait, really? They aren't?
No. They don't believe a wave of grief is acting like an electromagnetic pulse pushing electrons around in the circuit. That would be classical physics, and as you pointed out, the boxes are shielded against that.
Then what on earth are they measuring? If nothing is physically touching the electrons, how do the numbers change?
They are looking for an underlying correlation, an entanglement, if you will.
Entanglement, okay.
The hypothesis relies on a philosophical concept that is often associated with the French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. It's called the noosphere.
The noosphere, like an atmosphere, but for minds.
Exactly. The idea is that there is a shared underlying field of consciousness or intelligence that envelops the Earth, much like the biosphere or the atmosphere.
Right.
The theory suggests that when humanity becomes deeply emotionally synchronized, the fundamental fabric of reality itself becomes more ordered.
Wait, so you're saying the machines don't get pushed by our minds?
Correct. Rather, the random sequences being generated in Tokyo, London, and New York suddenly begin to mimic each other, or show reduced variance, because they are all embedded in the same ordered field.
So they are all reacting to the same invisible environment.
Think of a massive flock of starlings murmuring in the sky. Have you seen those videos?
Oh yeah, where they make those huge swirling shapes?
Right. When the flock suddenly turns, the bird on the far left isn't physically pushing the bird on the far right. They are responding to a shared underlying dynamic.
I see.
The GCP hypothesis is an entanglement of mind and matter. It's suggesting that our collective attention acts as an organizing principle on reality itself.
So reality becomes slightly less random because our collective focus is structuring the quantum field.
That's the idea.
It's incredibly poetic. It really is a beautiful idea.
It is.
But to figure out if this new sphere is actually real or just a beautiful idea, we have to look exactly at how GCP 2.0 measures this supposed ordering.
And that brings us to the 2026 statistical audit.
Yes, the audit, which strips away all that beautiful poetry and focuses purely ruthlessly on the math.
And the math is where the truth lives.
Always.
The 2026 Comprehensive Report is a brilliant piece of scientific literature because it defines, without any ambiguity whatsoever, exactly what the network is doing at any given second.
So what is the core metric here?
The core metric of GCP 2.0 is called the network coherence statistic. Mathematically, it's represented as C sub t equals Z sub t squared minus 1.
Okay, if you are listening to this on a drive or a run, let's break that equation down so you can actually visualize it.
Good idea.
C sub t equals Z sub t squared minus 1. What are we actually looking at here?
Let's start with the Z. The Z-score is a measure of how far off a result is from the average. In this case, it's a stuffer combination of all the active devices in the network at that specific second time to see.
Hold on, I need you to explain stuffer combination because, honestly, that sounds like a frozen dinner.
It does sound like a lasagna or something.
Why not just average all the machines together?
Well, if you just average them, a machine that rolls extremely high might cancel out a machine that rolls extremely low, and the average looks totally normal, even if both machines are acting weird.
Oh, that makes sense.
The stuffer combination is a method used in meta-analysis. Imagine you have 400 different people tasting a huge vat of soup to see if it's too salty.
Okay, I'm with you.
The stuffer method takes all 400 independent ratings, weighs them mathematically based on their standard deviation, and combines them into one master score that tells you exactly how far the entire group's consensus has deviated from the norm.
So it captures the collective agreement of all 400 machines.
Yes. It normalizes the output of the 400 or so devices running worldwide and combines them to see how far the whole network has drifted from perfect randomness in that exact second.
So if everyone is just flipping coins normally, getting roughly half heads and half tails, the network Z-score hovers right around 0.
Precisely. 0 deviation. But then look at the next part of the equation. They square that Z-score.
Which means any negative number becomes positive.
Right.
If the network was swinging wildly too high or wildly too low, Squaring it makes it a positive measure of just pure magnitude. It's a measure of absolute variance.
Yes, exactly. And then, importantly, they subtract 1. C sub t equals z sub t squared minus 1.
And this seemingly simple equation creates a very specific type of statistical shape, right? The audit makes a massive point of this.
It does. It says that under a null hypothesis, meaning if the machines are truly just generating pure random noise with no global mindquake happening.
Right, just business as usual.
Right. This metric follows a shifted chi-squared distribution with 1 degree of freedom.
Let's unpack that, because the chi-square distribution is basically the absolute heartbeat of this entire audit.
It is the key to everything. Most people are familiar with the standard normal distribution, the classic bell curve.
Sure.
Most results land in the fat middle, with a few outliers tapering off evenly on the left and right sides.
Right, like human height. Most people are average, with an equal rare number of very short and very tall people.
Exactly. But when you take a standard normal variable, like our z-score, square it, and subtract 1, you warp that bell curve into a completely different shape.
You stretch it out.
You create a chi-square distribution.
Oh.
And 1 degree of freedom simply means we are looking at a single aggregated variable, the network consensus, rather than tracking hundreds of independent variables simultaneously.
Okay, got it.
The key here is that this new shape is highly asymmetrical. It leans heavily to one side.
Explain that asymmetry for us, because the audit really hammers this point home. The metric has a hard lower bound. It cannot go to negative infinity.
This is one of the most misunderstood parts of the data by amateur researchers, and it's vital. The metric bottoms out near -1.
Why -1?
Because the lowest possible variance a network can have is 0. Think about it. If every single machine flipped exactly 50 ones and 50 zeros, the z-score is 0.
Right.
Square 0, you get 0. Subtract 1, you get minus 1. You cannot have less than 0 variance. You can't flip coins more perfectly than perfect.
I see. So a negative number on the GCP network data log doesn't mean negative consciousness or bad vibes.
Right.
It doesn't mean people are feeling evil.
No, not at all. It just means the network was acting slightly tighter, slightly closer to the theoretical average than usual. It hits a solid floor at -1.
Right.
But here's the kicker. While it has a concrete floor at the bottom, it has absolutely no ceiling at the top. The positive spikes, the moments where the variance swings wildly away from the average, can go upward infinitely.
Because if the z-score is 10, 10 squared is 100, -1 is 99, the ceiling is infinite. And this asymmetry is where the raw data file, that gcp.txt, becomes incredibly illuminating. Our sources describe this file as containing exactly 1,048,575 records.
It's massive.
That is over 1 million seconds of continuous, unbroken data from early March 2026.
And when you have a heavily asymmetrical mathematical distribution stretched over 1 million independent seconds, extreme natural anomalies aren't just possible, they are absolutely guaranteed to happen.
Guaranteed. Okay, break down those numbers for us.
The audit breaks down the exact probabilities of this shifted chi-square math. Under pure, meaningless, random chance, just the universe humming along with 0 human influence, a coherence score over 5 will happen about 1.43% of the time.
Now, 1.43% sounds rare, but if you think about it in the context of the data set, out of 1 million seconds, that's nearly 15,000 seconds, where the score spikes over 5 just by sheer dumb luck.
Right. And a score over 10 will happen 0.091% of the time.
Okay, if you are doing the math in your head right now, 0.091% of 1 million seconds is still almost 1,000 seconds.
Exactly.
1,000 moments where the data spikes above 10. So if you are an eager researcher analyzing a month of data and you see a massive spike of 24 on a random Tuesday, it isn't necessarily a miraculous mindquake caused by a news event.
No, it's not.
It's just what mathematically has to happen when you roll a million-sided die.
That is the absolute crux of statistical literacy.
Yeah.
You are guaranteed to see massive spikes. The audit specifically states that isolated values in the range of 12 to 28 are ordinary, expected consequences of examining millions of independent seconds.
They're completely normal.
Yes. They do not constitute anomalies by themselves. They are just the tail end of the chi-square distribution.
Which means the entire game of proving global consciousness comes down to how you search the data.
That's right.
Because these massive isolated spikes are mathematically guaranteed to be sitting there in the spreadsheet, the way researchers look for them is the fundamental difference between real science and wishful thinking.
This raises an important question about human psychology and pattern recognition in data analysis.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of the Texas sharpshooter fallacy?
Oh, it's one of my favorite mental models. It's the metaphor of a guy who fires 100 bullets randomly into the side of a barn.
Right.
Then he walks up to the barn, finds the biggest, tightest cluster of bullet holes, pulls out a can of red paint, paints a bullseye around that specific cluster, and claims he's an expert marksman.
It perfectly describes the danger we face here. In data science, we call this peak matching, or post hoc analysis.
Peak matching.
Let's say a researcher is scrolling through the GCP data and sees that massive, totally natural, mathematically guaranteed spike of 24.16 on March 1st.
Okay.
If they then go scroll through CNN, Twitter, or historical news archives to find a tragedy, an earthquake, or a major political event that happened at that exact minute, and then publish a paper saying, look, the global network felt this event.
They are the Texas sharpshooter.
They painted the bullseye after the gun was fired.
They found a natural anomaly and applied meaning to it retroactively.
Yes, exactly.
And to be completely fair to the Global Consciousness Project, because we aren't here to just bash them, the 2026 audit explicitly states that the formal protocol of the GCP absolutely rejects this practice.
They are well aware of the sharpshooter fallacy.
They are. The formal standard for the project, which evolved over time to become much more rigorous, requires something called pre-registration.
This is so important.
If you want to test whether a global event affects the network, you have to register the event window before you look at the data.
Right. And in the case of predictable events,
Mm-hmm.
like a New Year's Eve countdown or a scheduled global meditation, you have to register the window before the event even happens.
You essentially have to call your shot before you fire the gun. You have to say, on the record, I believe between 30 minutes prior to this specific event and 4 hours after, we will see an anomaly.
Yes. And furthermore, they don't just look for single, wild spikes in that registered window. Because, as we discussed, an isolated spike of 20 can happen naturally.
So what do they look for instead?
Instead, the formal scientific standard relies on cumulative testing logic. The equation for a formal test is Q equals the sum of C sub t plus a normalization factor, n.
Okay, translating from math to English for a moment. They add up all the individual second-by-second coherence scores over the entire registered window.
Correct. They're looking for the area under the curve.
Area under the curve.
A single spike of 20 that lasts for 1 second means absolutely nothing if the rest of the 4-hour window is completely flat.
Right, because 1 second doesn't make a trend.
Exactly. What they're looking for is a sustained, cumulative deviation over the entire predefined period, a subtle but persistent ordering of the data that builds up over time.
So when Roger Nelson talks about those mythical 3 trillion to 1 odds over the 17 years of the original project, he's not talking about 500 isolated lucky spikes that they found by sharpshooting.
No, he is talking about the accumulated sum of hundreds of pre-registered cumulative tests over nearly 2 decades.
Wow, okay.
The historical claims of the project rest on the sheer volume of these tests, trending slightly positive over time, not on single wild seconds. That cumulative logic is the standard the audit holds the data to today.
So if Nelson is claiming 3 trillion to 1 odds, he's relying on this cumulative buildup. But what happens when we take that exact same cumulative rulebook and apply it to a modern crisis?
This is where the audit gets really interesting.
Now that we understand the rigid cumulative standards that separate real science from coincidence, we can look at the actual test cases provided in the 2026 audit.
Yes, let's do that.
The report focused heavily on data windows surrounding periods of intense Middle East conflict. And I want to be incredibly clear to you listening right now. We're looking strictly at the data generated by the machines.
Right, the raw data.
We are imparting absolutely no political stance, taking no sides on the conflicts mentioned, and making no ethical judgments. We are just looking at what the random number generators did during these historically significant dates.
That is the only way to do the science. You have to be completely impartial. The audit first looked back at a cluster of devices located in Tel Aviv during June 2025. This was during what the sources call the 12-day war and U.S. nuclear site strikes.
Obviously, this was a period of profound global tension, intense, nonstop news coverage, and extreme emotional valence for millions of people.
Absolutely.
If the global consciousness hypothesis is true, a war with that level of global attention, with that much fear and focus, it should light up the network like a Christmas tree.
You would think so.
So if you apply the formal cumulative math to the pre-registered windows, what did the data actually show?
It showed a complete cumulative null.
Wait, really? Nothing?
Nothing at all. The distribution of the network data for the full month of June 2025 matched the theoretical shifted chi-square null perfectly.
Perfectly.
Perfectly. They looked at the opening war window from June 13th to 14th,
Yeah.
cumulative null. They looked at a broad strike window on June 21st and 22nd, cumulative null.
Wow.
They even narrowed the focus down to an exact intense kinetic interval of 25 minutes on June 21st, looking for a hyper-concentrated burst of coherence.
And what happened during those 25 minutes?
The result was actually slightly negative, meaning the network actually ran slightly more random, slightly closer to perfect theoretical chance than usual.
But hold on, I read the audit carefully. It mentions there were isolated high values in the 12 to 19 range during that month of June.
There certainly were. But we have to remember the million-sided die.
Right. The chi-square distribution.
Those spikes fell perfectly within the expected mathematical frequency of natural anomalies. They were brief, they were isolated, and critically, they did not alter the cumulative sum over the event windows.
So they're just noise.
Just noise. Despite the incredible emotional weight of the events unfolding in the real world, the machines simply behaved like pure random noise.
Okay, so June 2025 yields a complete null under formal standards. The theory takes a hit.
It does.
But then the audit moves to the centerpiece of the GCP.txt dataset, the March 2026 global anomaly.
This is the big one.
The timeline here is March 1st through the 13th. The geopolitical situation is escalating. Naval actions, strikes, massive media attention involving multiple nations.
And when the auditors looked at the global network data for March 1st, they finally found something statistically massive, something that made them stop and dig deeper.
The full day of March 1st had a mildly elevated mean, which is interesting, but the real jaw-dropper was a specific 2-hour window.
Yes.
Between 04.00 and 06.000 UTC on March 1st, there was a strong sustained elevation. The mean coherence shot up to positive 0.231.
To give that context, for a 2-hour cumulative period, that is an enormous deviation.
Massive.
The audit explicitly notes that this interval produces an extreme cumulative deviation under the simple null hypothesis. This wasn't just a single 1-second spike of 24.
No.
This was 2 full hours of the global network vibrating in a highly ordered non-random state.
If you are a proponent of the global mind-quake theory, you are looking at this graph and you are popping champagne.
Oh, absolutely.
This is exactly what a consciousness field is supposed to look like. Sustained, mathematically undeniable order out of chaos during a global event.
Except, the audit didn't just look at the coherence scores in a vacuum.
Right, they dug into the metadata.
A good audit looks at the metadata, too. They looked at all the variables tracked in the dataset, and they found a massive, glaring technical confound right at the exact moment the anomaly began.
The membership drop. I want to focus on this because this is where the detective work gets really, really fascinating.
It's my favorite part of the report. The GCP.txt file tracks how many devices are actively contributing to the network every single second.
Okay, so a head count.
Right. For most of the month, that number is highly stable, hovering right around 402 or 403 devices.
Solid network.
But at exactly 03.59 UTC on March 1st, literally 1 minute before the massive 2-hour anomaly began, the global network of active devices abruptly dropped from 403 down to 350.
50 devices just vanished from the network instantly.
And then, exactly 1 minute later, at 0400 UTC, they abruptly bounced right back to 402.
That's a huge disruption.
It is. And the very second that the network membership restabilized, the 2-hour extreme elevation in coherence began.
So what does this all mean? We have this beautiful, romantic idea of humanity's shared consciousness reaching out and touching the fabric of reality during a time of crisis.
Right.
But if 50 electronic devices drop off the map and immediately after they reconnect, the network coherence goes through the roof. I have to ask, are we actually measuring global human emotion, or did a server rack just trip over a power cord?
It's a very grounded question.
Like, did an internet backbone reset? How does 50 machines reconnecting actually cause a spike in the map?
That is the million-dollar question, and it is the ultimate scientific buzzkill. To understand how a membership drop creates a false spike, we have to think back to the stuffer combination we talked about earlier.
The soup tasting.
Exactly, the soup tasting. The stuffer formula relies on knowing exactly how many independent variables, how many tasters, or in this case, devices, are contributing to the consensus. The denominator of the math is tied to the network size. If 50 devices drop off, The central server has to rapidly recalculate the normalization framework for 350 devices.
Which takes some processing, but it should be fine, right?
Right? But what happens when those 50 devices suddenly slam back onto the network a minute later? They don't just quietly resume. They likely upload a backlog of data they collected while disconnected, or they flood the server with synchronization requests.
Oh, I see. So the central server is suddenly trying to blend push data from 350 devices with slightly delayed timestamp data from 50 reconnecting devices.
Precisely. It's chaos. And if the server's algorithm slightly misaligns that data or miscalculates the degrees of freedom during that chaotic reconnection phase, the variance calculations will distort.
So the math just breaks.
The stuffer combination will register this messy synchronization as a profound departure from pure randomness. It interprets a data bottleneck as statistical order.
It's a normalization artifact. The math glitched because the network was choking on a massive reconnect.
That is the most highly probable technical explanation. But to prove it, the 2026 audit did something truly brilliant.
What did they do?
They didn't just throw their hands up and guess it was the server glitch. They cross-referenced the global anomaly with local isolated devices to see if the supposed Monquake signal was truly global.
Right, because if it's a blanket field of consciousness covering the Earth, if the new sphere is real and it's responding to the events of March 1st, every single device should feel it, regardless of whether a server in New Jersey is lagging.
Exactly. If the new sphere is real, it shouldn't just exist in the aggregated math of the central server. It should be measurable at the local node.
That makes perfect sense.
So the auditors looked at a specific local cluster of devices in Tel Aviv. Remember, this is the geopolitical epicenter of the conflict that was dominating the news on March 1st.
Right.
If any local cluster is going to physically feel the emotional weight of this attention, it should be this one.
Okay, so what did the Tel Aviv cluster do between 04.00 and 06.00 UTC on March 1st while the global network was supposedly going crazy?
During that exact 2-hour window, the local Tel Aviv cluster showed a mean coherence of positive 0.007.
Which is basically 0.
It is a complete statistical null. It was totally flat.
Wow.
And, crucially, their local device count remained perfectly stable at 4 devices throughout the entire UO3.59 transition period.
So they didn't disconnect?
They didn't drop out. They didn't spike. They just kept humming along, producing pure, unadulterated random noise, completely unbothered by the global event.
But the auditors didn't stop there, right?
No, they wanted even more granular proof, so they pulled the records for a single, continuously running machine, which they refer to in the report simply as Device 15.
Device 15.
The data log for Device 15 is fascinating. They had continuous, uninterrupted data for this specific machine from September 2025 all the way to July 2026.
That's a huge baseline.
It gives us a perfect microscopic view of a single node in the network over a vast stretch of time. And during the critical SU 4.00 to 06.00 UTC window on March 1st, every single reading on Device 15 was labeled normal.
Totally normal.
Its mean coherence was well below any threshold for an elevation.
So it contributed absolutely nothing to the global spike.
Nothing at all. It was oblivious.
Let's pull this all together. We have a global network that shows a massive anomaly right after 50 devices mysteriously drop offline and reconnect.
Right.
But when we look closely at local nodes that didn't drop offline or just a single device humming along in isolation, they show absolutely no anomaly whatsoever.
If we synthesize these findings, the conclusion is inescapable. The anomaly was not replicated locally in the epicenter of the event, and it wasn't present in a continuous single-device record.
It wasn't real.
Therefore, this pattern strongly points to a technical or subset-driven origin. It is highly likely that this was a normalization artifact, a glitch in the math caused by a sudden membership transition rather than a geographically widespread shift in global consciousness.
The server tripped over a power cord, metaphorically speaking, and the resulting math looked like a miracle.
Exactly. The audit lays down the verdict pretty clearly. It classifies the global March 1st elevation not as a confirmed mind matter effect, but as a strong post hoc discovery requiring search correction and technical audit.
Which is polite diplomatic scientists speak for. This is a technical glitch until proven otherwise, and you only found it because you went hunting for it after the fact.
Very well put. Furthermore, the audit effectively debunks the idea of precursors, the concept we mentioned earlier, that the network felt the event before it happened.
Oh, right, the premonitions.
The report states that Any precursor claims for these events are completely unsupported once you account for the freedom researchers have to search the data and the mathematical reality of multiple testing.
It's the Texas sharpshooter again.
Exactly.
If you look at enough data before an event, shipping your window by an hour here or an hour there, you will eventually find a natural, chi-square, guaranteed spike that you can claim was a premonition.
Yes. The report concludes unequivocally that the examined periods do not produce formal, replicated mind matter effects. Period.
So does this mean the whole thing is a failure?
I would say that.
Because after reading this audit, going through the math, and seeing the March anomaly completely dismantled, you could easily walk away thinking the Global Consciousness Project is just a decades-long exercise in chasing statistical ghosts, server glitches, and human confirmation bias.
You could.
You could write it off completely.
You could, but I would argue that would be a profound misreading of what makes science truly valuable.
Why is that?
The auditor actually states in the report that they feel genuinely positive about the project.
Really? After thoroughly debunking their biggest 2026 anomaly?
Yes, precisely because they debunked it using the project's own evolving standards.
Oh, I see.
The true triumph of the Global Consciousness Project isn't that they definitively proved magic is real. The triumph is the evolution of its scientific rigor.
That's a good point.
Think about the arc we've discussed. They built a system, they made an audaciously bold hypothesis, and when the data started looking muddy, they didn't dig in their heels and embrace dogma.
Right. They didn't just double down.
They upgraded to 2.0. They implemented XOR whitening to kill physical bias. They abandoned peak matching when it proved misleading.
Which is hard to do when it gives you such flashy results.
Exactly. And they produced clear null results for the 2025 conflicts where the data demanded it, rather than massaging the numbers to fit their theory. They found a plausible technical lead for the March 1st anomaly, the 50-device drop, and chose to investigate it rather than explain it away with mystical terminology.
They survived contact with their own corrections, and that is so rare.
Exactly. A project earns credibility not by always proving its hypothesis right, but by building a framework robust enough to prove itself wrong.
Wow.
The GCP has developed a credible method for distinguishing between ordinary statistical behavior, technical server anomalies, and potentially meaningful physical effects. That is incredibly valuable science, regardless of whether the new sphere actually exists.
And for you listening, there is a massive real-world application to this. We live in an era of absolute information overload.
We really do.
Every single day, you open your phone and see viral claims of miraculous correlations. Someone posts a chart showing that ice cream sales cause shark attacks, or that a specific alignment of the planets mathematically predicted a stock market crash.
And people share them instantly.
Right. Understanding the logic of the chi-square distribution, understanding that in massive data sets, wild anomalies are a mathematical guarantee, not a miracle, is a superpower.
It truly is a superpower. The next time you see a chart online claiming a miraculous correlation, ask yourself the formal GCP standard question. Was this correlation predicted and registered in advance?
Yes.
Or did someone just shoot a million bullets into a barn and enthusiastically paint a bullseye around the tightest cluster?
It changes the way you look at every piece of data you consume.
It absolutely does.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something the audit recommends for the future. It's a tantalizing detail.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
The auditor says that if GCP 2.0 manages to eliminate every single technical glitch, if they figure out the server drop issue, completely lock down the stuff for math so reconnects don't cause spikes, and then run strict prospective pre-registered science.
Right, registering event windows before they happen, freezing the analysis code, and evaluating every single test without adjusting the parameters later. The absolute gold standard of the scientific method.
What if they do all of that? What if they strip away every statistical illusion, every server artifact, and every Texas sharpshooter fallacy? And after years of running a technically flawless network of quantum devices, they still find a subtle cumulative correlation during major global events.
That is the ultimate provocative thought to walk away with.
Right.
If a perfectly audited network still shows a reduction in entropy during moments of intense global focus, it would force a profound paradigm shift in how we view reality itself.
It would rewrite physics.
It would imply that the boundaries of our minds are not the physical borders of our skulls.
It would mean that those moments we talked about at the very beginning, staring at a New Year's Eve clock with a billion other people or watching a breaking news alert in total shock, aren't private experiences at all.
Not even a little bit.
Our deepest, most intense emotional states would be constantly leaking into and invisibly structuring the physical and digital world around us. A literal fingerprint on reality.
It's profound.
It's a thought that makes you look at a massive crowd of people or even just the quiet hum of your own computer screen in a completely different light.